Hello, everyone, and welcome back to HockeyProspects.com YouTube channel. I'm Jérôme Bérubé, and as always, I'm joined by Brad Allen. We have another top 10 video today. We're going to discuss the two-time Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. Brad, we last in our last video we discussed the Edmonton Oilers. Now we're going with the champ, the Panthers. So let's talk about what they have in their prospect pool. So we mentioned the Oilers last in our last video. Really tough to get decent prospect for them based on trying to win the Stanley Cup. The Panthers have won 2 Stanley Cup, but I think we both agreed that their prospect pool looks a lot more interesting than the Oilers. So that's kind of an interesting for us based on usually teams that are going for the Stanley Cup. They don't have that much prospect going for them because either they trade them or they trade all their picks. But the Panthers still have some interesting guys that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about their top 10. Everyone can see the screen here. So, Brad, let's talk with Matvey Sharavin, big toolsy Russian defenseman that they got 97th overall. I felt like that was a bit of one of the big shock from that draft class. I didn't expect that player to drop that far. We had him 48, but at some point we thought he was a top 32 player. So let's start talking about this player.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I wish we kept him there. So we had it right, and then we pushed him way too far back, is what happened. And then Florida got to capitalize. To your point, it's interesting. One thing with the Edmonton prospect pool relative to this one is like if you look at the top 4, I think Edmonton hangs right. The top 4, like I take Sharavin slightly over Savoy, which might raise some eyebrows, especially since Savoy's already in the NHL. But I really think Sharavin's a top 4 defenseman, so I'll take that over Savoy. And then Jack Devine versus Howard is, Howard certainly is more talented in some areas and has the better shot, but Jack Devine is a real hockey player, real smart. Then Aki versus Sachin, I probably lean Aki a bit, and then Eriksson versus Berezkin, very, very, very different players. Eriksson higher chance to play, but Berezkin more talented. So you look down the line of what we're seeing here, and that's kind of that's the difference between the two systems, Jerome. You're getting a bit more high talent level boomer bust with Edmonton's depth versus more substance and depth players that have a higher probability of playing but lower ceilings. That might be the way to put it. And then I take Gracemiak and Black all day over Alonen and Vinny. So just food for thought in terms of like looking at the depth relative to the two. So back to what you mentioned, Sharavin. So I did watch him in the KHL here. Jerome, we've watched a lot of this player. Like we really liked him in his initial draft season to start. Then we had a bit of a falling out with him. We thought he was a bit too inconsistent with his retrieval, exit rates. Didn't look like he quarterback a power play or have the talent level we first initially suspected. And there were times where he wasn't nearly as intense or physical as you wanted in stretches. So we're like, okay, the skating, the toolkit, the base is there, but a bit raw. We moved him back. Well, in his +1, +2, when we saw him there in the MHL, we were watching him quarterback the power play, looked a bit better, a bit more fluid, a bit more consistent. I really thought him quarterbacking the power play kind of helped him with his exit and retrieval rates because he started implementing feints in his hands more often, like he would when he was at the line. So I felt like he managed to develop from that perspective. And you come to the KHL now, everything's coming together. Our what we thought he could be when we had him top 32, Jerome, is certainly looking like the case now. This is probably one of the best picks from that class in 2024, especially if things go really right, which they have a chance to. And that means a top 4 puck-moving defenseman who gives you secondary offense, can skate, really can skate. The big thing for me in the KHL, the energy levels, Jerome. When we saw the inconsistency in him, He's looking very, very dialed in defensively. The retrieval rates are not only holding, they're more advanced than we used to see. So he used to be more a bit streamlined, a little more cookie cutter. In one of those situations where you're looking like just to kind of like grandma's, Christmas sugar cookies back in the day. They're getting upgraded now, Jerome. We got some toffee glass brown butter chocolate cookies coming in now. That's what he's serving. Knows how to hesitate, knows how to bypass the first option to get the second option available, recognizes the more efficient option under pressure in the KHL. That's enormous for him because, as I mentioned, he's a puck mover. That is his game, is to transport the puck, get it up the ice. So that area we have to weight extremely heavily relative to the rest of his game. He's there defensively. Pressure generator, pressure cooker, swarmer, very good skating base, starting to understand how to use his leverage advantages to make sure he can get back pucks if he makes mistakes or if he's trying to pin players or work players along the boards properly. He's got those traits. So the Panthers might have a sneaky player here. This might be a player, Jerome, where I don't know where he's in the top 4 in Florida, and everybody goes, who in the heck is Matt Vacherov? Where did he come from? What is happening? Florida's done it again. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Very impressive development. Phenomenal pick by Florida. We had it. We lost it. Jerome, what have we mentioned? Past. We got to make sure that our first impression, we got to remember it because sometimes it really holds more than we think. That gets to Jack Devine, where my first impression was he was the worst skater I've ever seen. And I had zero time for him because I couldn't get past what he looked like he looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. He was just a bucket of paint just dumped on a canvas and forgotten about. He looked like his back was legitimately broken when he would skate sometimes. I remember telling you, like, he looked like he needed a stroller. Is honest to God, the worst looking skating mechanics I've ever seen. So I was actually pretty interested to see, one, why was he so good in college at the end? And why is he already so good in the AHL? Why is he up in the NHL? Why am I so wrong? So these are all things I really wanted to find out. And this is a 7th round pick for everybody. So this was like one of those, we have nothing left on a list. This is the only one. Maybe this is a needle in a haystack scenario, right? That's how the NHL was interpreting this player. The problem is he is unbelievably intelligent, almost like Mark Stone levels of intelligence, and he has to be because his skating is so limiting, especially out of the gate. Like his acceleration of first 3 steps are so bad that he has to be so darn good in order to matter. And that's what he's showing. He's showing that he knows how to think the game in an advanced way that slows the opposition down so that his skating's not so much of a detriment than it is. That's what makes Mark Stone special. That's what Jack Devine is showing. He's also a lot more talented than I thought when I saw him in the first year there in college. He could always pass a puck, but I never thought his handling rates were that great. I never thought he was overly creative. I didn't think much of his shot. Well, all that's come miles. Either I was wrong and didn't see enough, which is very possible, or he's come miles in that regard. He also is a workhorse. Like the kid knows that he has to work, and he does. He'll work for pucks. He'll do the things necessary to keep him in an NHL lineup already. So you look at Florida, and everybody knew because of where they are in the NHL that they're going to be drafting deep. The goal is to find those late round gems. Well, you're talking about a late third that might be a top 4 defenseman. I think it's a top 4 defenseman. And then you're looking at a 7th round pick, one of the last 7th round picks, and he's looking like he might actually stick and be a top 9 forward, which is like, I can't believe I'm saying this. Like he's not as talented as Howard, for instance, for contrast, but I think he has at least equal, if not better chance of holding, which is just mind blowing when you think about where Devine came from. With that skating base out of college. Jerome, do you remember what you think of Shravin back in his draft year? What were the discussions? You have a better memory than me. Will you remember what we talked about with him and where he was? And I don't think I've ever talked to you about Jack Devine.
No, we talk about Jack Devine quite a lot in his draft year, and we just couldn't believe how bad the skating was.
I don't remember a single moment of this, so that's good.
Because like prior to that, like with the NTDP, like he was viewed as maybe a 1st round pick, maybe a 2nd round pick, but like for sure top 2 round. And then he plays draft year in college, and that was probably the worst thing that could happen to him because he was exposed, right, with the skating. And he went in the 7th round. He almost didn't even get drafted. He went 221st overall. There's 225 picks, so he almost went not even drafted, but kudos to him. Like he I mean, his skating is still not, it's still pretty bad, but he's such a smart hockey player, like you mentioned, a bit like Mark Stone in the sense of like off the puck, vision. Obviously, he's not 6'3" like Mark Stone, so that's a bit different here. But you know, I think he fits pretty well with the how the Panthers are playing. Like I think you can put him on the lineup with the Panthers, and he would fit pretty well with how they play. And as you mentioned, he's a hockey player, so very very nice pick. Obviously, you're getting a 7th round pick that will play in the NHL for probably many years. If everything goes right with Divine, like that's whoever the scout was responsible for that pick. Like he's getting an extension on his next contract. Sharavin was like very inconsistent in his draft year, from what I remember. Like there was a lot of good. The skating, obviously, the skating base was really good. The size, and I felt like the second half maybe his play cool off, and that's why we dropped him on our list. But I guess that was a mistake.
He
Looking
went to the
back at it,
VHL, right, Jerome? In the second half, he
yeah.
went to the VHL, and that's when we.
Yeah,
I think that's what happened.
don't get me started with the VHL. I hate that league.
I think that's what happened. We got caught up in the VHL process, and we were watching them there, and we should have just kept it to the MHL more than the VHL. I think that's what happened because it's recency bias too, where our last performances we watched him were in the VHL, and that doesn't help. That's not going to help us. I think that was part of it. Sure.
VHL is honestly the worst league to assess prospect. Like it's such a,
it is. Yeah, it's nuts. That league is crazy. Yeah, full of experimentation.
Grayson Sachin at number 3. Really, like that's a player that played for the program. Then he left and went to play in the WHL. Really good hands, really good one-on-one skills. The problem with him was the size skating combo, not good at all. But he plays like we like the way he plays. He's having like decent success so far in his first pro season this year. So things are, I think, going in the right direction for him. He could end up, and he plays hard too. He's not a soft player. So he has a chance maybe to be a depth center for the NHL. You're mentioning to me like his production this year is actually decent when you think about the ice time he's getting. So
that's good. He's only getting 12, 13 a game. He's producing for his ice time.
Yeah. So he's an interesting one that has like a legit chance to be an NHLer down the road. Linus Eriksson at number 4. Again, probably upside wise, probably a depth center as well. Very smart, works hard. We'll see if he has like enough offense to get to the NHL level, but he has a chance. Like he can kill penalties, he can play center, can play wing. I believe in his draft year he was captain of the Swedish national U18 team. So there's a lot to like here. Like very good details in his game. It's just sometimes the offense is lacking a bit, and so he might just end up being, if he plays, he's probably maybe a 4th-line center. I would say unlikely a 3rd-line center, but we'll see.
Maybe one you can move up and down a bit. He might be one of those you could fill in depending on the situation.
Yeah. So that's the top 4 we got. Brad, you want to touch on the other guys here at number 5, number 6 here that we have, and then we'll touch also on the 2 goalies that are back to back on the list here.
Well, I just want to briefly mention about Sachin. Do you know this offense reminds me of, Jerome? It reminds me a bit of. Do you remember Omark, the Swedish?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Swedish? He had the ridiculous shootout moves. I can't. Was it Linus Omark? Right? Linus Omark. Yeah, the way he produces offense a bit like Linus Omark. But the reason I bring up Omark is that Omark couldn't hold an NHL from a physical perspective. He's too slight with his frame and the skating combination, but he always had the hands and the magic, right? Sachin has the hands and the magic, but the difference is he's got some vinegar in him. He's got that red wine vinegar. This kid is willing to attack and really go to war when he needs to. And I love the fact he is at times even overly aggressive, because it really speaks to how bad he wants to be something, right? Like, one thing with skill is, like, you never want to see it suppressed, and usually suppression rates go through the roof with perimeter play. This is not a perimeter player. This player, now, the way he shoots, he's a trick shooter, meaning he looks for weak side options way too often. He's looking to take advantage of how goalies are operating and integrating into the net. Which you want to see some of it, but he has way too much of that. That's the one area he's still got to really clean up. But the rest, pretty impressive early going here. And the Linus Eriksson, I've traveled with his skills coach in Finland, and I remember in the Black Book, one of the quotes I talked about how one thing with Eriksson was, like, his skill was a bit untapped because he was using his stick length way too long. Like, his handling rates in transition were awful in J20 to start, and then they shaved his stick length down. That really helped his cause when it came to his handling rate. So the big thing for me in my viewings with Timra was, are the hands in transition the SHL holding, and can he use his hands to screen and mask his playmaking options and his passing rates? And the answer, which is very important for Florida and Linus Eriksson, is that they are going up. Like, his hands look pretty darn efficient. Now, don't get me wrong, he's never going to blitz. He's not like Grayson Sachin. There's none of that happening. But they're passable in the way he operates. And that allows, as Jérôme mentioned, the hockey sense to take over. This is a player with vision. This is a player with a tremendous amount of detail. He's a coach's dream. Like, this player's a coach's dream. He might be one of those players where he gets you 10, 15 points a season and the coach doesn't care. He's too valuable. He'll be your matchup center. He'll be able to be a fantastic player in a depth role in the playoffs, and he does everything the right way. Everything. Leads by example. So there's a lot of substance to this player. Not a ton of style, but a tremendous amount of substance, which is why we have him as high as we do relative to the production. You mentioned Mads Kongsback-Kleivo. This was a player I was pretty high on last year, Jérôme. I was hyping him up to you for a bit there. I had him as a fourth rounder. He went in the fourth round, top of the fourth, which I thought was exactly the value you wanted to see from him. The big thing with Mads Kongsback-Kleivo was, I should mention what he is first. Trying to think of him. I was going to say he's like a Herman Traff type of, he's Danish Herman Traff, but most people listening to this are not going to know who Herman Traff is yet, though he's coming. Is there any player comp you could think of in the NHL, Jérôme, for Kleivo? I'm trying to think of a player who overhandles pucks, but he's a power forward style shooter, overhandles everything, but can skate. they're out there. So anyways, that's the style play.
I don't want to say Emil Heineman because people are going to get a bit too excited, but
that's a decent one. Yeah. So Emil Heineman. Yeah. Let's go with Emil Heineman, who we loved. We loved Heineman. We liked Heineman more than this player at the same stage. But I'll say this about Kleivo, which was the reason I thought he was undervalued and the reason I think he's a great fourth round pick. By the end of the season, he was starting to really understand how to open up his options in transition, so he didn't have as much tunnel vision. He started showing passes I was like, I did not think he could do. Like, he was threading high danger, weak side lateral options that, he had no business making the first half of the season. So he's really starting to show development before the season finished. And then you look him in Division I at the international stage, he destroyed it. Like, he had to destroy it, and that's exactly what he did. Like our Lithuanian that we talked about last week. Same type of thing. If you're playing Division I, destroy it. That's what he did. So he hasn't played yet. So we have him here in the fifth seat, but he's a very interesting long-term potential power forward depth checker with interesting driving potential based off his handling rates and what he can do. But a poor man's Heineman in terms of scoring rates and upside. Not as gifted a shooter as Heineman or Herman Traff at the same stage. That brings us to
I just want to mention, if he played this year, like, he could have been higher on that list.
Potentially, yeah.
So we don't know. Like, he has not played a game this year. So we'll see when he start playing again. I think he's supposed to be back soon, but so that's that could end up being a really nice pick by the Panthers, similar to Sharavin, who they got in the third round. Getting this player in the fourth round, maybe in the future, like he moves ahead of like maybe Eriksson, maybe Sachin. We don't know yet because we have no games to watch this year from him. So Marek Alsher, Brad, you want to touch on him? Big check, shutdown defenseman.
Yeah, he's your bread and butter shutdown defenseman, but his first pass in the A is holding. He's not going to be anything from the line or anything, but he can be mean in front of the net, which you always need. And he's again one of those plug and play type of depth defensemen where out of nowhere he might end up in the NHL and everybody goes, wait, what? Who? Right? It's one of those players, and you need these players. These players are absolutely foundational for playoff runs. Like that's what the league knows. That's what the league's looking for. These types of bigger defensemen can come in out of nowhere, stabilize your defense. You absolutely need it. Everybody's seen it now. Look at the save percentage rates in the NHL right now, Jerome. Like the defense are getting melted. Did you see Calgary without Yan Kuznetsov? Calgary looks like a different team with Yan Kuznetsov in the lineup now. Kuznetsov, massive 6'5" Russian rig. We loved him. We're very high on Yan Kuznetsov, and we were hoping that this would hold and make us look decent, and it has, honestly. Out of anything I can say publicly, for now, we'll see. But anything I'll say publicly is like we get it. Like the production's not there, but you have to, when you have these offensive specialists on the back end, like these dynamic offensive defensemen, you have to insulate them. That is Alsher's game. All right, so that's what he brings to the table. That brings me to the two goalies. So as I mentioned, I would have both well ahead of Emil Vinny and Daniel Salonen. Very different goalies, like opposite goalies, you could argue. So Kirill Gracimic was a goalie I was very high on in his draft season. I loved the potential. Like he stood on his head so often. He was on the second tier MHL system, MHL team, SKA's second team. So what that means is, or SKA, SKA's. So SKA's second team is nowhere near as good as their extremely dominant first team. And what that meant was that he had to play out of his mind to keep his team in games. Like he had remarkable numbers, super consistent, only won a couple of games that year. To give an idea. And because of his consistency rates with his technical skating base, the micro shuffle rates, the edge work, the technical nuance, the foundation, the set stance, everything, the hands, everything looks like an NHL goalie. There was one determining factor, though, that needed to improve in order for our ranking him. We had him high. We had him as a B-rated prospect. In order for that to hold, the growth rate, especially with how he loads, when it comes to big, large area skating, so like lateral transitions, T push-offs, all that had to go up a totally different level in order to see him make it. I was betting on him doing it because he was an August birthday, and you could tell that he was still a stick at that time. Like he had no strength and conditioning coach at the time. You could tell. So in my head, I was like, if this kid can get the growth rate of something like Murashev has shown in Pittsburgh, we're off to the races. And, it never happened. In the VHL, I was quite frankly very disappointed in this goalie. Basically what happened was a lot of high danger chances that you're like, oh, this is going to be a goal because his lateral adjustments, he's not going to be able to shift in time. It was a goal. Or recovery rates. We're expecting him to show some fast twitch in the recovery sequences. They weren't there. That was incredibly concerning. However, Florida brings him in. That means he gets real strength and conditioning training in the offseason. He gets to actually put on some mass. I was very interested to see where the fast twitch, if there was more development there, what he would look like with his recovery rates and his lateral transfers. And they look pretty darn similar. We're in trouble. Now we're in a Michael Neuwirth territory with him. I was telling Jerome, that's not good. That's not a name you want to hear. That's bad for me. It's bad for Florida. That said, he's young. He has time. He does have a phenomenal technical base to work with. We'll see. He needs time, though. Cooper Black is a massive free agent goalie that they brought in. I watched him a couple times in college. the strangest set stance I've ever seen for a goalie that size because of how low and narrow he was in it. Now, I get it, because the more narrow the set stance, the easier it is to load and explode, and to be able to basically activate with all your limbs simultaneously if you need to hyperextend out of nowhere. And when you have that type of limb length, you want to keep everything coiled in so you can take advantage of it. That made some sense. But his back, Jerome, I've told you on this program, we talked about it with Caden Lindstrom. I got an L2 injury. Like, my lower back is dead in the water. I couldn't believe his posture and how at 6'8", how he was going to maintain that posture throughout his career in college. So the one thing I was looking for in the AHL, let's see if he modifies it. And sure enough, he's pulled himself back up a bit, which I think is good in terms of longevity for his career and actually maybe becoming something. He is a pretty darn gifted athlete. Who is fully coordinated at 6'8", which is extremely rare. The reads are a bit suspicious here and there, but he's one of those goalies where you need to slow cook this kid. You're not going to find out exactly where he is until he's 27, 28. So he has some time here. He's looked decent in the early going here in the A from what I've seen. Yeah, well, where are you with Arvid Drott and Simon Zether and Josh Davies, Jerome?
Well, Arvid Drott was the guy they took in the 6th round last year. I think you were a bit higher on him than me. He played for Djurgården, who's producing players after players for the NHL draft. It seems
the program version in J20.
Yeah. So I think, to me, if he plays at the NHL level, he's more going to be a depth player. So he has some skill. He has some bite in his game at times. So I don't know exactly what I find his consistency a bit lacking, based on being a true offensive player. Even in junior back in Sweden, sometime I'm not too it's not always there. Also, some games he looks very pesky, a bit of annoying player to play against, but it's not there all the time. So to me, that screams a lot of inconsistency with that player. Simon Zether is I think we know what we're getting out of this player. Very vanilla type player, not physical at all. But he's a right center, 6'3", 6'4". He has some talent, but what at the NHL level, what is he? At best, I would say he's a 4th line center, but the grit level, the physicality needs to be a bit better. I remember his draft year. Man, there was a lot of games we're watching and we're there was nothing happening. Really, he was playing in his draft year. He was a late birthday, but he was playing in the ACHL a bit in his draft year, and it was really hard to scout him. Even in junior, it was not always all that fun, scouting him. And the Panthers took him in the 4th round. We had him as a 7th round, pick. And so far in the AHL, it's there's no offensive production out of him even this year. So we'll see. He does have size. He does have smarts. So he could find a way to be a depth center at the NHL level, but it's going to take a bit more than what we've seen so far. And Josh Davies, he's a lot more fun to scout than Zether. That's for sure. He's like a human pinball on the ice. He's very chaotic on the ice, but it's his 2nd pro year. He's still playing in the East Coast League, but he does have the intangible to maybe one day find himself playing on the 4th line somewhere. But he's gonna have to find a way to get out of the ACHL and start doing things at the AHL level. And my biggest concern about him has been the hockey sense, going back to his draft year. That's why we didn't rank him. That's why he went only in the 6th round, because if that player had really good hockey sense, he's not getting out of the 2nd round. Like he's getting drafted in the second round. So that's the biggest flaw for that player. But he's fun. He's physical. He's annoying to play against. He's not the biggest guy. Like he's 5'10", 200 pounds. But there's a way for him to be in the NHL, but it's gonna take some time. And I think this season it's massive for him to, at least get out of the ECHL and start, becoming something at the AHL level. And then after that, he can start thinking about, moving up to the NHL at one point, but it's going to take a while. So those my quick take on Drott, Zetter, and Davies, who we have as a HM. Brad, you want to finish on those three, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure, I'll mention Josh Davies thinks he's Cooper Black's size. That's the difference. The kid, I don't know if you said pitbull or pinball, but he's both. So I'm with you either way. The kid could be a fourth line maniac for a team, right? Tasmanian devil out on the ice who just hits human battering ram. His hit rates are probably like top 5-10 in the league, but he has a ton of difficulty producing. ECHL right now, Joe, we got to see him in the A and see where he goes. But if he does manage to translate to the AHL and get a decent amount of production there over time, I think he has a real chance, at least as a fourth line checker for sure. Simon Zether, to your point, imagine if he had Josh Davies' mentality. Now we got a player, right? That's the issue with Zether. He's just the hit rates aren't there. Now, he has learned to board battle better, and his forechecking rates are better. He knows how to weigh on players better. There is a weightiness to that he's learning how to generate weighted minutes against opposing defense. That is critical for his deployment, because there's no chance he's not a depth player. This is a depth player. It doesn't have the handling rate, doesn't have the shot, doesn't have the talent necessary to play up. So he has to be able to drain opposing players. Don't always have to finish your checks. Wouldn't hurt him though. But he does have to have some sort of intangible quality that allows him to be dangerous off of forecheck and during board battling sequences that has him end up with the puck. Because this is not a creative player. This is a very streamlined player. This is not your, he's very, we always, vanilla gets a bad rap, Jerome. Vanilla is a pretty unique, distinct flavor. But when you're talking like Scottsburn vanilla, that's what he is. Scottsburn is.
I'm too harsh. Is that what you're saying? I'm too harsh with my vanilla comment?
Yeah. You're being a little too critical of vanilla ice cream flavors. But Scottsburn, I'm with you. That's what Zether is. And Trot, again, like we're talking substance over style points, right? Like streamlined north-south game, a bit more talented, I would say, than Zether, but he's also smaller. So give and take. Long term, like if you get one of the three playing, Florida's doing a backflip. All right, and landing it. Yeah. So we'll see. But let's put it this way. One thing I'll say about Florida before we close, a little more interesting than I expected going into this. When I started watching what they are, where they're developing, it's like, you know what? They got some players people don't know, especially the top two. Like Jack Devine and Sharovin out of nowhere. Like I really think both are going to play. That's enormous value for Florida, and that's a testament to their scouting. Well done by them.
All right, that's gonna be it for us for the Panthers top 10 prospect video, and we actually talked about 11 guys. So with Josh Davies. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys soon with another video. We got more teams coming up too. We also have we're gonna do a World Junior preview for scouting session. We're talking about draft eligible prospect that will play at the U20, so that should be
exciting times. What an amazing U20s for scouts. This is, if any of you love the U20s as much as us, hone in on this one. If your team's got a top 10 pick, there is some very interesting talent that's going to be there that your team might be drafted.
Yeah, that should be a fun tournament for as far as like watching, draft eligible prospects. It's not always the case every year, but I feel like this year should be quite the fun. So again, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys soon for another video on the hockeyprospect.com YouTube channel. So take care, everyone.
Happy holidays.